The laughter sliced through the restaurant like a blade through silk, loud, arrogant, and meant to wound. Heads turned as a wealthy man in a charcoal suit waved crisp bills in the air, his smirk daring a young waitress to prove her worth. "Serve me in English," he said, "and I'll pay you $1,000. Around them, the world froze, the music, the chatter, even her breath. He thought it was a joke. But what happened next would leave an entire room silent, and a millionaire humbled forever. But first, please make sure to subscribe the channel and comment below from which city you are watching this video. Her name was Ariana Velasquez, a 23-year-old immigrant from Guatemala who carried her family's dreams in every step she took. For months, she had worked double shifts at an upscale restaurant called Maison de Lumière, a place where chandeliers glittered like fallen stars and the air smelled faintly of wealth and power. The guests spoke in polished tones, their laughter light, their confidence louder than the music that floated beneath the hum of crystal glasses. Ariana moved quietly among them, her white shirt neatly pressed, her navy apron tied just so. To most, she was invisible, another nameless face in service. But beneath her calm expression lived a fierce determination. Each tray she balanced was another step toward a distant dream, to return home one day and open a small school teaching languages to children who had never held a textbook of their own. Still, the weight of survival pressed heavy. Her mother's tired hands and her brother's hopeful letters kept her going when exhaustion made her bones ache. And though her English wasn't perfect, she greeted every guest with warmth. Most smiled back. Some didn't. That afternoon, as golden light poured through the restaurant windows, Mr. Richard Collins, a real estate millionaire known for his loud voice and sharper tongue, sat near the window with his girlfriend and assistant. His laughter rolled across the room, drawing glances and whispers. When Ariana mispronounced a single word while offering him the menu, that laughter turned toward her, mocking, cruel, and public. In that moment, humiliation met pride. The air grew still. What happened next would test not just her composure, but the very essence of her dignity. The laughter didn't fade, it multiplied, echoing faintly across the room like ripples of mockery. Mr. Collins leaned back in his chair, waving a few crisp bills between his fingers, his grin sharp as glass. "If you can serve me in English," he taunted, "I'll give you $1,000. The other diners turned, pretending not to watch, but unable to look away. A hush settled over the elegant restaurant, as if the chandeliers themselves were listening. His two companions, Veronica, dressed in emerald silk, and Elaine, his assistant, shifted uneasily in their seats. Veronica's painted smile faltered. Elaine looked down, uncomfortable, but neither spoke. Ariana stood frozen for a heartbeat. Her cheeks burned. She wanted to disappear, to let someone else take her tray and her shame. But then, through the heat of humiliation, she remembered her mother's voice, soft, weary, and unbreakable. "Don't let pride make you small, Mija. Let strength make you stand tall." So she did. She straightened her shoulders, drew a quiet breath, and looked Mr. Collins in the eye. The smirk on his face widened, expecting stammering, entertainment, failure. But instead, he was met with calm resolve. When she finally spoke, her English came slow and careful. Every word deliberate, every syllable a step forward through the storm. Her accent was thick, but her tone was steady. A few tables away, someone whispered. The air grew tighter, charged with something unspoken, pity from some, curiosity from others. Mr. Collins leaned closer, resting his chin on his hand, eyes glinting with condescension. "Go on," he said under his breath, loud enough for a few to hear. Ariana's pulse thundered in her ears. But the young waitress refused to flinch. She finished his order in English, her voice gaining quiet rhythm, her fear slowly turning into focus. Then she paused, set the tray down gently. The moment stretched long enough for even the background music to fall away. In that silence, Ariana met his gaze, and with a voice suddenly fluid and assured, began speaking again, not in English this time, but in perfect, elegant French. The room seemed to blink in disbelief. Before anyone could react, she shifted to Italian, her tone melodic, each phrase flowing like a song. Then German, crisp, precise. Then Mandarin, smooth and confident. Finally Arabic, her words warm and resonant. Each language flowed from her lips effortlessly, her expression serene. Conversation stopped. Forks froze midair. Even the soft hum of jazz seemed to hold its breath. Mr. Collins' smugness faltered. His smirk twitched, his fingers still clutching the bills. His eyes darted toward his companions, who now stared wide-eyed at Ariana, their faces painted with awe and discomfort. For a man who had built his life on dominance and wealth, he had never looked smaller. Ariana ended her performance by returning to English, her tone even, her eyes unwavering. The energy in the room had shifted completely. What began as mockery now felt like reverence. The stage was set for a reckoning that no one could have predicted. The restaurant had fallen completely silent. Dozens of eyes followed Ariana, as if she had cast a spell over the room. Even the flicker of candlelight seemed softer, gentler, as if afraid to intrude. Mr. Collins sat frozen. The color had drained slightly from his face, and the smirk that once danced across his lips had vanished. The bills he had so proudly waved now rested limply on the table, forgotten. For the first time, his booming laughter was gone, replaced by a heavy, choking quiet. Ariana stood tall, her posture calm but resolute. There was no triumph in her eyes, no anger, no gloating. Only grace. She looked at him with quiet strength and asked, in perfect English, her voice clear and measured, "Would you prefer I continue in English, sir?" The question sliced through the silence. It wasn't a challenge, it was dignity spoken aloud. Veronica's hand trembled as she set down her glass. Elaine looked away, her lips pressed into a thin line. Around them, whispers began to stir, soft but sharp, like wind moving through glass. People weren't just witnessing a scene, they were witnessing a lesson. Mr. Collins tried to speak, but his voice caught in his throat. He looked at the young woman before him, the same one he had mocked minutes earlier, and saw not a waitress, not a mispronounced word, but brilliance, patience, and humility that no fortune could buy. For a long, unbroken moment, the two stood locked in silence. One holding shame, the other grace. And when Ariana finally turned to walk away, the air in the room felt lighter, as though everyone there had just seen something sacred. When Ariana stepped away from the table, the restaurant slowly came back to life, whispers filling the silence that her courage had left behind. Mr. Collins sat motionless, his eyes lowered, the weight of his arrogance pressing down harder than he expected. For a man who measured worth in money and status, he had just been humbled by something far rarer, quiet dignity. Later that evening, as Ariana was clearing another table, the restaurant manager approached her. His expression was a mix of pride and disbelief. "Mr. Collins asked me to give you this," he said softly, handing her a sealed envelope. Inside was a check, not for $1,000, but for $10,000. Along with it, a small handwritten note read, "For your courage, your intelligence, and the lesson I needed to learn today. Forgive my ignorance. Richard Collins." Ariana's breath hitched. Her hands trembled slightly as she read the words, but wasn't the money that brought tears to her eyes. It was the apology. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly seen. That night, she walked home under the gentle glow of city lights, her reflection shimmering across the wet pavement. Thoughts of her mother and brother warmed her heart. The little dream of a school back in Guatemala no longer felt so distant. Maybe, just maybe, it was closer than ever. Weeks later, a customer's recording of the encounter went viral. Millions watched as the quiet waitress humbled a millionaire with nothing but grace. The world called her a hero, a symbol of strength, but Ariana never changed. She still worked hard, still smiled softly, still saved every dollar. Because she knew what truly mattered, that dignity cannot be bought, and kindness never goes unnoticed. So before this story ends, ask yourself, if you were in her place, would you have walked away, or stood tall with quiet courage? In a world that often confuses power with worth, Ariana Velasquez reminded us that true strength speaks softly in any language.